Welcome back, Watchers. It's time for episode 8 of Comic Watchers, brought to you by Comic Watch. Comic Watch is your source for all your comics and media news and reviews written by fans for fans. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Spread the word. We're coming for the clickbait sites. It's our time now. I'm your host, Cody, coming to you from a tropical paradise in the middle of the Pacific. We're down a man today due to real life getting in the way of our fantasy, so here's the rest of the terrible trio.
Holy shit, we're on episode 8. How have we not been canceled yet? That's actually a real question. Tyler, please email me back. All right, so I am Brian. You can follow me on Twitter, Comic Watch Brian, and also on Instagram, Comic Watch Brian as well. Yeah.
My God. Hey, I'm John Jack. You can follow me at John Batusi Jack on Twitter or John Jack on Facebook. You can find me in my group for the love of comic books. You can look me up on comic-watch.com. We do have a Patreon account, which you can please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. I also have an indie show called Talking Indie Comics with John Jack. We have had a couple drinks whilst waiting for Brian to figure out his refrigerator stuff.
Other Brian, not this one, the Derbs.
Which is as specific as I'd like to be. If you've gotten to this point in the show, we do apologize, and I'm going to take it over to Brian for the news. Brian Arbizo.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? You're not the host. Hold on. I wanted to interject that Derbs is obviously our grounding rod for this show, so this may be a chaotic episode, and we apologize to all our dozens of fans.
Plus, we were drinking for a solid hour waiting for him to get going.
So it has been another light news week since convention season is starting to a close. You know, just coming out from the major publishing companies because they don't have a venue to really release it other than their websites. It's not as sexy. So what do we have that's striking this week, Brian?
Well, first off, I would like to say thank you, and I don't think we have fans. I think we have people that pity us and just watch the show. We appreciate all three of you very much. I'd also like to say that we have officially renamed our show, not the Comic Watchers show, but it is going to be Comics and Cocktails, as every one of us have been drinking pretty heavily. We normally drink throughout the show to make it seem a little bit easier. However, this is going to be the only podcast that you'll ever see that had pregame to it. Okay, so back to the news. I was reviewing earlier. I was trying to go through all the news sites, and I decided to say, you know what? Fuck it. Who cares about the news? Go to comic-watch.com to get the news. So today is a very important day in politics. So Newsarama posted a slideshow about all the characters in the comic world to see where they were in politics, different people. They took something from us. You're welcome, Ross, for mentioning that. So I'm going to steal something from them, which thank you, Newsarama. This is very useful. Today's a very important day. It's voting day. And let's review a short list of what characters have been in politics. First, we have Mayor Flash, which was Jay Garnett, and he was the mayor of Momentum Point. Mayor Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, which was the mayor of Star City. Congresswoman Batgirl, Barbara Gordon to Gotham City. Secretary of Defense, Iron Man, Tony Stark, of course. President Thor, which was I guess he was a president for a short time in Ultimate Universe. Then we had President Nighthawk, who I'm not even familiar with as a character. We had President Wonder Woman in 1943. However, it was in the future set for 3004. On that note, what the fuck? We had to wait like 1,000 years before we get a female president? Seriously? This is where we're at, America? Seriously? Come on.
How did you have that entire list and not mention President Lex Luthor?
I ain't done. Calm down. We have President Lex Luthor, who was not mentioned on the list from Newsarama. Thank you, JJ. We also have President Superman in Imaginary Tales, and then President Captain America in Ultimate Captain America. Screen
Are we
Rant.
only doing American politics also? Because Superman became premier of Russia in Red Sun.
Yeah, that's true. I actually reviewed Red Sun. It was an awesome book. I suggest everybody check it out. He did become the president. Wait, are they actually called presidents? I sound really stupid right now. Anybody
It's either
jump in.
prime minister or premier.
Okay.
I-
All right, moving on.
I'm pretty.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure it's Premiere. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I promise you I have a college degree, but a whole bottle of bourbon wine is saying different right now. All
Don't
right.
give Tom King any ideas about Mayor Batman, though.
Well, technically, it'd probably be Mayor Bruce Wayne. I mean, okay. Screen Rant released the top 10 strongest female villains in the DC universe. As a huge DC universe fan, I decided to check it out. At number 10, they had Poison Ivy. Number 9, they had Morgan Le Fay.
Le Fay.
Thanks, JJ. You're awesome for that. 8 was Granny Goodness. 7 was Lady Shiva. 6 was Grail. Number 5 was Blackfire. Has she only appeared in the Titans Go cartoon, or is she a major character in the books? Do you guys know?
She's been in the
Major character in the books.
Oh.
Yeah. She's Starfire's sister.
Yeah, apparently they don't get along very well.
No,
number 4 is...
Not a good sister.
Yeah. You know. Number 4 is Catwoman. Number 3 is Silver Banshee. Number 2 is... why can I not pronounce her name? Oh, bourbon. Talia al Ghul.
Talia.
Thank you. I don't know why. I know how to say that like any other time except on camera, apparently. Usually I'm most comfortable on camera. Number 1 is Enchantress. So,
Enchantress?
Yeah. Is that not what I said?
No.
Oh, well, okay. So I also wanted to kind of get to take a bit and take a little bit time of knowing the cast. So what I've come up with is we've been doing this for a little bit more than a month. And I'm going to ask 4 questions, and each of us will reply. Now, unfortunately, Derbs was supposed to be part of this. I was really excited to hear his take on a lot of these 4 questions, but I really, really want to know kind of where we stand. Like, I want to kind of get to know the cast. Are you guys game for the 4 questions?
I ain't scared of you.
No, all right. Cody, are you game?
Cody froze.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes. Can you hear me?
And now you're back and live in action.
Hi,
right.
Cody.
So I'm going to ask you, so what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you the 4 questions, but I'm going to ask you one of them at a time, and then we're all going to answer the first question, and then we'll move on to the second and so on. All right. The first question is, what is the first comic book you think you ever read? Now, it doesn't have to be specific to what you've read, but it has to be like maybe a title or a series that you think you first read. JJ, go.
It was probably Amazing Spider-Man number 21 from 1965-ish via the Essential Collections that my aunt got me when I was 6.
All right. Cody?
For me, it was probably either Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures from Archie Comics, or like an old Journey into Mystery or Captain America and Falcon from the 70s. Most of my first comics came from garage sales. Like, you have a stack of comics for $1, I'm going to buy that and read them.
Nice. Mine was the first comic that I ever remember reading. I obviously was a fan of the TV show first, but it was X-Men, and it was one of the annuals that they ended up presenting. I wish I remembered. I actually still have it, although the cover is torn. It's in total ruins, but I still have it. And any comic book fan will know that the 90s and 80s comics have a special smell to them, and I still love that to this day.
I actually do still have my Essential Spider-Man Volume 2. I'll send you a picture sometime. It's got duct tape for a cover.
Yeah, no, definitely. Put it on your Twitter so all of us can go and see.
I will.
The second question is, who is your favorite character, DC and Marvel and Indie? So 3 characters. You only can choose one per. Go. JJ, we'll start with you.
Good God. If we're going all-time issues read, it'd probably be Thor, then Superman, then Hellboy, probably.
Cody? Do you want me to go?
No. Okay. So DC, Batman. Marvel, probably Captain America. And you said Indy?
Mm-hmm.
Can we count Vertigo as Indy?
Yeah.
Spider-Jerusalem from Transmetropolitan.
So
when I did this, I forgot to answer my own question. So
you understand what a pain in the butt that is on the spot.
Yeah. No. So DC is probably going to be Catwoman. Image is probably going to be Voodoo from the Wildcats back in the 90s when they first appeared. Marvel is the one that I'm having the most trouble with. I don't know if I can choose a group on this, if you guys are going to kill me, but I'd have to say I'm going to choose probably Black Widow. The third question is, what is your favorite story arc, the name of the title that you've had so far? I'm going to start with Cody on this.
Cody.
You're on mute. JJ, while he figures out that he's still on mute, go ahead and go.
Favorite storyline? Probably Criminal. Just all of it. Criminal.
Okay.
From Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, originally published on Icon, later on Image.
Go, Cody. All right. As he is frozen currently, I will go ahead and tell you my all-time favorite arc. My first arc that I remember collecting was probably all of it, and knowing that it was an arc was probably X-Men: Age of Apocalypse. That is probably my all-time favorite series, and being 10 or 11, it appeared to be so dark. It appeared to be something that probably a 10-year-old shouldn't have read. And yeah, that's where I'm at with that. What is your favorite storyline or arc? JJ,
I would say for me,
Cody, go.
I would say for me, hands down, it's Planetary. Wildstorm book from Warren Ellis and John Cassaday had the brilliant Laura Martin on colors. It's one of the most exceptionally beautiful and amazing books I've ever read in my life. So that's an easy question for me. JJ.
It's probably between the death of the Stacys, which always gets a pretty visceral reaction from me, the death of Superman, which always gets a visceral reaction from me, or Rock of Ages from Grant Morrison's stellar JLA run, or possibly Night in Bloodhaven, or maybe just 52, like all of it, or Criminal. Criminal is great, or Booster Gold. Read Booster Gold. Just go read it.
I love how JJ added like 50 titles to that. But
that's what you get.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I totally threw them on the spot. I just told them I had a curveball during news, and they went with it pretty well. Okay, so my favorite all-time story would be X-Men: Age of Apocalypse. It was the first book that I got that I actually remember buying and keeping up with it. Being an 8 or 9-year-old or possibly 10-year-old, that book was dark. It was awesome. It was everything that a nerd like me wanted. All right. So the final question is, why are you a comic book nerd? What makes you so into comics or remains into comics? Let's start off with Cody.
I guess, for me, part of it, there's always the nostalgia factor. This is all I've ever known. I've been reading comics for over 30 years at this point. But there's also the fact that for me, comics is such a unique medium. This is the only sequentially published and released narrative form that we have that has sustained the test of time. 80 years of Action Comics. 80 years. Monthly, sometimes bi-weekly, sometimes weekly. This comic has been with us for the better part of our development as a culture, as a society, as a nation. And that's something I feel like it gets overlooked. You look at it as like, well, it's pictures and words. Well, yeah, but it's also us. Like, it's also us at that moment and at every sequential moment of the last 80 years. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Like, that's just so unique. So that's my answer.
Okay. JJ? Or let me know if you want me to go first.
Oh, I can. So basically, I've been reading comics since I was a kid, and the older I get, the older comics I read. I'm actually reading as far back as the 60s. I recently read all of the Golden Age Action Comics, and it's really so interesting the way that comics are kind of almost a time capsule to the era they occur in. If you're reading a comic from the 70s, you can, depending on what you're reading, you can get a real feel for what the 70s felt like. Likewise, if you read a comic from the 40s, you can get a real feel for what the 40s felt like. And to me, that is, Carl Sagan said something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing here, I've had quite a bit of whiskey, but but it said something to the effect of, a book is a time capsule to someone from a different era. And so books are magic because what they do is import you to the era when the book is written and to what the person was thinking when they wrote it. Books are magic. They're an amazing thing that can convey thought and emotion across decades, across years. And that's why I read comic books.
That's an awesome reason. So my reason behind it is, and I'm going to try not to get an emotional. I'm actually not originally an emotional person at all. Like, I generally am pretty unemotional when it comes to most things. So for me, I grew up with moving every year. Like, I didn't really ever have friends that I kept, because every single school year I was in a different school. I was in a different place. So I never really was able to keep a friend or anything. But the one thing that was consistent in my life were comic books. And I just kept reading it because that was the one thing that was consistent in my life. And as we've all mentioned before, like, I don't have any family or friends that actually even read comics, even to this day. So being part of Comic Watch and doing these YouTube shows is awesome, because we all get together and talk about our favorite things, or in JJ's case, our least favorite things. But it's so important to know that nobody's ever alone. No matter even if the story is bad, that is still somebody's yum. And I never try to yuck somebody's yum. And I think it's very important that every single comic is literally made for somebody, because I don't agree with it or JJ doesn't agree with it, it's for somebody. And I think it's important. I am so proud. I went to Comic-Con recently this weekend, and I got to see people become who they wanted to be, who they inspired to be, even though I didn't know half of them. It was still very important, and it was beautiful to watch them be able to be themselves in a safe place. And I am so proud, so proud to be part of this industry. And more than anything, to be a fan with everybody who reads a comic book, whoever goes to Comic Watch, the two people who watch this show. And that is why I continue to be able to love comics, to love where they come from, to love every aspect of this industry. And it's important to get that message out, because even if you feel like you're alone, there's always comic books, and there's always somebody that likes the same stuff that you do.
Well,
Huh?
One man's trash is another man's treasure, and don't forget, read before you rag. You
Yeah.
know, if you don't like a book, you should learn about it before you say
Yeah.
bad things
Absolutely.
about
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Like it's one thing to rag on a book that you didn't like.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to actually carefully construct your argument, to think about it and say, okay, this is why I didn't like it. And not some superficial thing, but actually like think about the narrative. Think about the ways these are constructed. Think about who these are speaking to. Sometimes you don't like a comic because you're not the target audience. Just
Yeah.
because you have, $3.07 and can buy the comic doesn't mean you're the target audience.
Yeah. And I give JJ a lot of crap about being negative and all this other stuff. But one of the things that I always constantly love about JJ is that he'll continuously dissect why he doesn't like something. And that's very empowering. So, all right, I'm going to end this segment. But before I do, I want to say this is us. This is why we continue to do this show every week. And this is why we'll continue to do it for as long as we can, no matter the amount of or views or followers that we have. So I wanted to create this opportunity for us to get to know, or for you guys to get to know us, but I also want to create the opportunity for for us to get to know you, the viewers. So please comment your answers below. Let us know what you guys watch, or all three questions. It's, what is the first comic book that you ever read? Who is your favorite DC, Marvel, and Indie? What is your favorite storyline arc that you've currently read or have read in the past? Why are you a comic book fan? All right, so if there is anything else on this subject, let's go ahead and move on to the spotlight.
All right. Well, our spotlight this week is Extermination #4. This is from Marvel Comics. It is written by Ed Brisson, Pepe Larraz on layouts, Arid Anidito on pencils, Dexter Vines on inks, Eric Arcienega on colors, and VC's Joe Sabino on letters. Extermination is a 5-part miniseries. This is the 4th part. We're at the penultimate issue of essentially saying goodbye to our time-displaced original 5 X-Men. Bye-bye. You're not supposed to be here. You're fucking everything up. It's time for you to go home.
Bendis is gone. Let's do this.
Bendis is out of the house. We're going to set things straight. So far, this has been a fantastic book. I mean, spoiler alert, if you haven't been reading it, which I don't think there's anybody that's an X fan that hasn't been reading it, but if for some chance you haven't, Extermination opens the very first issue with Ahab coming back in time, hunting the original 5 X-Men, the time-displaced kids. And while he is arriving and hunting them, trying to kill them and ruin the timeline, a baby Babel, comes back from the future and kills Cable and starts kidnapping the original 5. And that's your kind of central premise. You've got one force that's trying to ruin the timeline, and one force who says, nah, bro, no future me. You're not doing your job. So my answer is I'm going to kill you and do your job the right way, which is kind of fascinating. Like, this is John Connor in reverse. This is Bizarro John Connor kind of thing happening. So issue 4, we've already seen Ahab fail a couple of times. Babel now has Iceman, Angel, and Beast. Is that right? Yeah. So he has Iceman, Angel, and Beast. Jean Grey and Cyclops are still in the wind. And Ahab is hunting Cyclops in Atlantis with the X-Men that are there. And the shocking end, I won't reveal. I'll let one of the other fellows reveal it. But I mean, it's a game changer. Except we're dealing with time travel buffoonery. So there is no such thing as a game changer in that sense. I'm really enjoying this book. I think the art is beautiful. I think the pacing is really strong. The deaths feel painful. And I was never particularly attached to the original 5 time-displaced X-Men. But now I'm kind of starting to feel that way. So, I mean, Ed Brisson is probably the strongest writer the X universe has right now. And I'll talk more about him later. But for now, let's shift to a non-X-Men fan in JJ and get your take on Extermination.
I gotta say, I've been reading Extermination, and shockingly, besides Bloodstorm being the first to die, which I'm sorry, spoiler, but Bloodstorm being the first to die, the book has been pretty full of general surprises, and the 4th issue has led to a shocking no complaints from me. Like, I thought the art was good. The story is interesting enough to keep me hooked. Like, I'm currently reading Claremont's X-Men for the first time. But I felt like the entire X-Men team is utilized in interesting ways. Like, I don't feel like anybody's being misused. I don't feel like anybody's being blown off. Um, Even down to Cannonball, people are getting interestingly used. People are getting touched on. People are like, the thing I feel like Claremont nailed on was, even the weakest X-Man gets his time to shine. Like Jean Grey, young Jean Grey, which young Jean Grey was by far the weakest of the X-Men in the original series, has her time to shine. Like, like Cannonball has his time to shine. The individual X-Men being turned into hounds, which is something that Cody didn't touch on, but the 2 young X-Men they found the 2 young mutants they found in the first issue were actually telepaths that were able to turn people into hounds over the course of seconds, have been able to turn a good chunk of the X-Men team, various teams, into hounds, which is on the one hand mind control utilized to turn a ally into an enemy is not necessarily the strongest plot point, but I do like the way it is played in this. Although one complaint I had about X-Men 4 is Gabby being turned into an X-Men or into a hound, whereas Gabby is currently in gold, being turned. I think it's gold. Maybe I don't read the X-Men books.
Probably red.
Red. I'm sorry. Being turned into a cuckoo. So there's 2 current books where Gabby is being mind controlled.
Oh no, it's in X-23.
X-23. Sorry, I don't read X-Men books, but 2 current books where she's being mind controlled into being an enemy of the team.
For what it's worth,
I
think that Extermination is taking place after the conclusion of, at the very least, X-Men Red, and possibly X-23. I haven't heard a cancellation announcement, but all the X books are being canceled systematically. So,
yeah, but two separate books simultaneously having Gabby specifically being mind controlled into being enemy of the X team is a little bit derivative or potentially just a weak story. But the X story, or the X story at the core of Extermination, is strong. And I love the idea of fixing the timeline that's being used through Extermination. And as Cody mentioned earlier, Jimmy Hudson is the one outlier in that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we find some way, because we have Dead Man Logan coming up, was or Dead Man Logan coming up is the rectification of Old Man Logan being in this timeline, which was obviously a clear and obvious attempt to capitalize on Wolverine being missing in this timeline, which you got to give it to Marvel of all their cash-ins here and there and everywhere. But Wolverine is one cash-in they haven't really dropped into the mix. They had Hulk kind of dropped into not Secret Empire. Yeah, Secret Empire. But I was impressed at how long they kept Hulk dead, but they've kept Wolverine dead even longer. They're bringing him back now. Nothing is sacred, as you know. But
Uncle Ben is sacred. Uncle Ben.
Uncle Peter Parker's parents are the only people who have been allowed to dead, if you discount Spider-Man Annual number 2.
1997. Way to go, Marvel, in your bankruptcy.
Hey, wait. We're missing an important fact that Thunderbird has remained dead.
Who's that?
Thunderbird. John Proudstar. Although they basically just resurrected him as his twin brother, or little brother, or whatever it was. So James Proudstar is Thunderbird by a different name, a slightly different set of chromosomes. But anyway, I still think, you're definitely onto something. Marvel did do a good job of keeping Wolverine dead for a significant amount of time. I wouldn't say they didn't cash in on him. If you do the math on how much Hunt for Wolverine cost.
It was like $70 for 17 one-shots that didn't actually lead to Wolverine being alive.
Right. That was kind of ridiculous. But anyway, I think you're onto something. Marvel is the industry leader in number ones, in one-shots, in random miniseries. They could have been a lot worse.
What I call the infinite number one cheat code, which is what Marvel has achieved with their endless one-shots involving What If and one-shots, and X-Men Black being 5 one-shots, and Marvel Knights being 5 one-shots, and they've dipped into endless one-shot territory, where every issue has a number 1 on the cover.
Yeah. So Brian, you're probably of the three of us, I'm probably the longest standing X-Men fan, but you are probably the most affectionate towards the X-Men. So I'd like to hear your thought.
I absolutely, I mean, I for the longest time, I've been solely X-Men up until probably maybe a decade ago. I actually really, really love Extermination. I loved the Bendis run with the original 5. I thought, because the original 5 was outdated by the time that I got to read it, it was kind of like, oh, yeah, it was okay. It was hard to read. But seeing them kind of in the future, taking a present course, it was really cool to read. And I'm kind of sad that they're gone. Do I think they need to go back? Yeah, because now we have Jean back, and stories need to move forward. I love the storyline. I'm very sad that so many people have had to die in order to get to where we are. And also, I did want to mention real quick, I don't really have anything more to say. I think it's a great storyline. I think it's an awesome book. But am I partial because I'm an X-Men fan? Absolutely. And it's a good story overall. I do want to comment real quick on Claremont's run. Me and JJ will be doing a side project, or actually a regular project, but a side-by-side project as far as I think we're reading 200 issues. He's going to be reviewing it from a first time ever, and And since he's not an X-Men fan, I'm super, super interested in hearing his version. And then I'm going to come back as an all-time fan who pretty much read everything, or at least know the history of everything, in reading mine. So we're going to have dueling articles coming out very soon. Although it's not necessarily dueling as much as different perspective, as much as I did with Superman. You get to see my take on comic-watch.com. But
I genuinely can't wait. I've got some complaints, but all in all, I'd say I've got some really positive things to say about Claremont's run, especially after Byrne takes over. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So as far as that, I mean, I absolutely love writing these commentary pieces. I'm so excited. Like, this is my first joint project with JJ. And since we're coming from complete different backgrounds, it's even more exciting for me because he hates everything that I like. I like everything that he hates. I prefer to say that I'm the positive one, which is really rare because I'm usually like bitching about everything. No, but all jokes aside, like, I am so excited to work on this project with JJ. It's probably going to take us a while to get everything that we need to, but I can't wait for you guys to read it and join us. You know what? Join us. We're reading X-Men. What's the number? 69? 65?
94. 94.
90,
No.
94 through, yeah. Yes.
94 to 200?
To 271,
It's like
I believe.
205 or something.
Yeah.
Don't forget X-Men Giant #1, though, which is not considered part of the original run.
Yeah, so if you guys that are watching the Select 2, join us. Like, read with us. And once the article comes out, hell, if you actually want to submit something to us, and we'll put it part of our project here.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
we would love some audience interpretation or interaction. Like, if you submit something, we'll enter it into the dialogue. And
yeah, for sure.
Especially involving X-Men. I've got a few paragraphs written so far.
Yeah.
And I won't share with you now.
Yeah.
For now, so go ahead and comment below if you want to join our crusade. Like I said, I loved X-Men Extermination. I don't want to go too far off of this. I can't wait for my project with JJ. That's all I have to say on the spotlight. I'm excited about so many good things coming our way.
I'm really excited about I'm really excited about you guys' project too. This is something I undertook years and years ago. But I love this idea of these journey projects, and I think that that's something that's unique to www.comic-watch.com. I don't see anybody else kind of going through this journey as a fan, and that's something that Brian started. And mad props to Brian because I think it's a genius idea. So please join us in this. Stay tuned for the recap and the kind of output that comes from this. But go on your own journeys. Don't be afraid to dive into the history, like this rich history of comics.
Yeah, binge read some shit, man.
Yeah, exactly. Binge read some shit. Learn some stuff. I think that's I don't know. I don't want to say like it's the biggest problem with comic industry today, but it's one of those things that I think that has been lost over the years, and it's never been easier.
If you need a Conan reading list or a Hellboy reading list, by all means hit me up in my group or personally. I absolutely adore Conan. I adore Hellboy, Criminal, Daredevil. Cody knows Daredevil, Captain America. Like, if you don't understand what's Superman, if you don't understand what's great about these characters, ask us. We'll tell you. Or look up online. Like, there's characters where I see people all the time saying, I see that these characters are great, but I don't understand why. Like, ask us. Ask somebody who knows more, or look up online. Like, there's no reason not to ask, and there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. Like, if you want to know more about a character that you don't understand what all the hype is about, especially regarding like Superman, like ask us. We'll give you a reading list, and
Actually,
the reading list. If at the end of the reading that list, I guarantee you, like I can tell you, the more Superman you read, the more Thor you read, the more Daredevil you read, the more you'll be excited about the character. Like, there's characters where people go, I don't understand what the hype is about. The trouble with not understanding what the hype is about, is you haven't read the right stories. I can't read enough Daredevil. I can't read enough Superman. I can't read enough Spider-Man. Like,
I totally agree with JJ's assessment. This show's obviously weird because I'm agreeing with JJ. No, but out of all seriousness, that's how both of my favorite journeys have been since I've been with Comic Watch since June, I think it was, or maybe July. No, June 28th. I have went on 2 major stories that's taken me months to complete. And I am so excited. Like, I've never been a Superman fan. I've never been really a Fantastic Four fan. I've liked their stuff, but I never read it. And I went to my fellow coworkers and was like, hey, what is it about Fantastic Four that's so great? They're dumb, they're et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, well, you got to read this. And so I did, and I wrote a whole article about it. It took me 10 days of reading over 50 comics. Check it out. That's also on our website. Superman, I did the same thing, but I did the graphic novels. Sorry, my dog's sniffing things and it freaks me out. It doesn't actually freak me out, but I was like wondering what he smells, and I was like, what? Whoa, what's going on? Superman, that changed. I don't want to say this because it sounds cliche, but it really changed my life. Like, I've been a somewhat fan of Superman, but I can honestly say he's in my top 3 characters of all time now, because I get him. And it took me asking people, hey, give me, why is this happening? And if you read the article, I actually start off with the whole thing about how I said in our workplace, like, hey, what is the big deal about Superman? And everybody was like, looked at me as if I was the strangest person in the room. Normally, that's probably true. But then JJ and Cody kind of came to my rescue, but it wasn't a rescue. It was a fucking work assignment with all kinds of things to do and read. So I definitely recommend anybody, if you don't know something, read more of it. And you still may not end up liking it. Who knows? I'm sorry, we're going on several rants right now. And
I'm so excited to hear you say that, Brian, though, because I recently read... leading up to Action 1000, I read the first 500 issues of Action Comics. Like, 500 issues of Action Comics. And I gotta say, I am now probably the biggest fan of Superman on the West Coast.
We'll be competing for that title, but
awesome.
Yeah, no, he really is. It's not, and as I said in my article, it's not Superman that makes him great. It's Clark Kent. So I'm not going to go too much into that, why my reasoning is. If you want to, check out the article on comic-watch.com and look at why is Superman great. I do think we've totally went off topic from Extermination, so I want to bring it back to Cody and closing this conversation for our own good.
Right, yeah. It's definitely time to move on. I thought I would move on to my short abbreviated review and then my kind of slightly longer review. First up, like, while we're on the subject of if you want a reading list for understanding a character and its motivations, Tom King, if you're listening, please hit me up. I will give you a reading list for Booster Gold because you clearly need it. Heroes in Crisis number 2 came out this week. I don't want to go too in-depth into it. Tom King is writing. Clayman is on art with a few pages from, I believe, Travis Moore. We continue the investigation at Sanctuary. There's a lot in this issue, but not a lot that happens in this issue. Please, if you're interested, it's received mixed reviews. I feel like my review is somewhere in the dead center. There were some good things. There was some really bad stuff too. check out my review on comicwatch.com if you want to hear the whole story on Heroes in Crisis #2. Everybody's talking about it. I feel like it would be a mistake to not at least mention it in this week's show.
Real quick, I do want to kind of talk about it. Usually I'm the bright and shiny star of the negativity in this room, but even I had some not so positive things to say about Heroes in Crisis #2. I think it's a great book. I love King. He made me fall in love with Batman. So no matter what, I will always love Tom King because he was able to take that character and make me fall in love. So with that being said, I do agree with Cody's assessment on this, that there's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly. Let's go ahead and continue because I forgot what else I was going to say on this.
I despise Harley taking down the entire Trinity in this. And I know that's the thing that pretty much the entire internet seems to have latched onto, is how the hell has Harley taken down the entire Trinity? Not to mention just the assassination of Booster Gold's character. You have so many Booster Gold series and just arcs to take account for. I feel like Tom King has portrayed Booster Gold as an incomplete and total moron in this entire arc, and as a whole, including his arc from Batman earlier. And it's borderline at this point if Tom King made it so that Booster Gold tripped over a rock and hit a lever in his time sphere and then fucked the entire timeline, and that was what happened, that's how everybody died, I wouldn't be surprised. If he ripped off 52 and made Skeets the villain, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, there's nothing he can do at this point to make me think lower of him than I have thought 2 issues into this 9-issue arc. I said in our private chat previously, I award Tom King 0 points for this review, and may God have mercy on his soul.
And to be fair, in King's defense, he is fighting some editorial oversight. This was initially supposed to be a 7-issue miniseries focusing on PTSD within the superhero community, and then all of a sudden there's the murder mystery incorporated into it.
He dropped the PTSD angle, though. He and a con at first said it was about PTSD, and then said that the PTSD angle didn't follow with his further story of the arc, and made it more of a murder mystery, because apparently we're all hungering for murder mysteries, which I personally have not been to a single murder mystery in my life.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know that that's necessarily his fault. That could be somebody in his ear saying, we need to go in this direction or that direction, and I get that. Like, I was a Marvel reader in the 90s. I get that. Very much so. Editorial oversight can absolutely destroy a book, or it can pull a book out of the gutter. Anyway, my take on the book is fairly neutral at this point. I believe I gave it a 5.8 out of 10. Clayman's art is just astounding. Worth at least flipping through it. But form your own opinions, because we are just a couple of just a couple of assholes around the corner. Make your own opinions, and like Brian said earlier, we're not trying to yuck anybody's yum. If you love it, and embrace it. Be able to defend it, though. Don't just love it blindly. Be able to say, this, and this are what make this great, and these things, maybe not so much. But anyway,
I do want to include that it's really hard to be a reviewer and a fan of comics, because we are trained to look for the negative in comic books. And it's really hard because sometimes I want to love Heroes in Crisis blindly, but I also know as a reviewer and as somebody along with you three who are professional, or two rather right now, it's hard to defend it because I love Catwoman, yet she was able to take out 2 Flashes.
What I do?
Which generally probably not going to happen realistic. So I do understand, and we're sorry if we anger anybody, but these are our opinions. It's our job to be critical on times, and also we would love to love everything that all the writers and artists put out, but sometimes it's just not possible. It's not where. That's why we get paid the big bucks, so to speak.
And I did mention in the in our chat earlier today. I was thinking about it today about why I have so much trouble with Tom King, and I realized that part of it is I have a lot of trouble when Tom King tackles characters that I personally or others personally may have had a lot of interaction with, such as Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, what have you. Booster Gold. Uh, he's writing Booster Gold really terribly. I'm sorry, but it's when he's tackling characters that we don't have a lot of in-touch feelings with, such as the Vision or Kyle Rayner, that you can have a real touch with the humanized hero that he likes to touch on. The thing that you need to realize is the humanized hero is him. He's writing a retrospective on his own career and his own life and making it about superheroes and about comics. And as such, he's painting himself to be a superhero. He's painting himself to be this superhuman entity. Um, and and for a character you know nothing about, which you or me may know nothing about, less about, such as the Vision or Kyle Rayner, it may touch and hold true because it feels like a real humanized take on this character. But on a character that I've read literally 4,000 comics for, like Batman, or a few hundred comics for, like Batman, or a couple thousand characters for, like Superman, it doesn't feel like a touchstone take. It feels like someone is retroactively trying to stroke their own ego. Someone is trying to make themselves feel important.
That's entirely possible. That's entirely possible. I don't know that I'm willing to indict him on full-on ego stroke yet, but I get what you're saying. Like, when you're dealing with a lesser-known character, then it feels, I don't know, a little bit easier, more palatable. But when you're dealing with a widely known character, it's a little bit harder to swallow for longtime fans, this new take. So that's enough about Heroes in Crisis. Honestly, read my review. We also have an op-ed from another writer, Kurt Arthur, about comment. Let us know what you think. What do you think of Heroes in Crisis? Come at us with an informed opinion. We're really moving forward.
Yeah,
I also
personally just read the review.
I also did Old Man Logan number 50. It's the final issue of the Old Man Logan series. And as JJ touched on earlier, there seems to be a concerted effort in the X canon under Jordan D. White, who is the X editor right now, to kind of consolidate the timeline. So you've got Old Man Logan, who took the place Wolverine died. That's spinning out of Mark Miller and I'm having a brain fire. Was it Steve McNiven on art in the original Old Man Logan? So Old Man Logan, the original story arc was in the Wolverine Marvel Knights series, 6-issue story arc of a future Wolverine who had some trauma in his past, hung up the blue and yellow or brown and yellow or whatever costume you might want your Wolverine in, and had a family and had a decent life in a war-torn, villain-controlled America. They brought that Wolverine back after his family was lost, after his family was killed, and put him into our timeline to replace our dead Wolverine. And at the time, I was skeptical, right? Like the original miniseries or the original, 6-issue story arc was brilliant, but bringing him back to us felt cheap and just kind of something you do because you want sales to continue to be up because you have Wolverine in your book. But that's not the case here. The series started with Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino, who are doing Gideon Falls right now. They had a marvelous run during New 52 on Green Arrow. And then they had this initial couple of arcs on Old Man Logan, which I thought were really fantastic. They were beautiful. Sorrentino's layouts are just absolutely gorgeous. And then you move into the Ed Brisson era. And Ed Brisson, as previously stated, was the writer also on Extermination. Ed Brisson's era was always marked by the specter of the loss of Old Man Logan in a really beautiful way. You always knew that Old Man Logan is dying, and his era comes after the Logan film, where we saw Logan's healing factor start to fail him, the adamantium poison catch up, and eventually Old Man Logan will die. So there's always this kind of specter hanging in the air that Old Man Logan is going to die. And he took that kind of concept and spun it into, well, what do I want to do with him between now and then? And most of the arcs are very short, 2, 3, maybe 4 issues at a time. Old Man Logan 50 ends with the second arc involving Maestro. Maestro was, of course, a Peter David creation during his 12-year tenure on Incredible Hulk, future version of Dr. Banner, who has become a despot. Right, like I am a gamma irradiated tyrant. He's back in our timeline. Wolverine has already thrown down with him a couple of times, or Old Man Logan has thrown down with a couple of times. And now this is the kind of finale. This is the wrap-up. We see, Maestro has taken over a town. He's become the king of the town. Got them all under his thumb, promising to make everything great. And Logan rolls up and is like, bitch, I know you have a time machine. And I want to go home before I die. So, the basic premise of the story isn't necessarily Logan trying to stop Maestro from being a despot. It's Logan wanting to go home. But when faced with the choice, you have a time machine, I see it, it's in front of me, we're there. Or, I stop you and free this town.
Did you see
What?
the CBR headline today? Wolverine and Hulk kill each other.
No, I didn't. But that's crap. I hate a headline that has spoilers. I think JJ might have lost phone battery, which is not terribly surprising. That's technical difficulties will do that. But so, the general wrap up is Wolverine chooses the good of the town over the good for himself. And this is leading into the Dead Man Logan 12-issue maxi series, also written by Ed Brisson, that I will be covering for Comic Watch. If you want to read my Old Man Logan number 50 review, that's up on Comic Watch already. Oh, he's back.
I hung up on it instead of muting on accident. Sorry.
All right. It's been a really great series. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he finalizes everything. I've heard rumors that we'll see Old Man Logan back in his timeline, which I'm also really excited to see. To see, if you're a dying superhero, what do you do with your final days?
As
Do you
somebody, go ahead.
No, please.
Well, I was just gonna say, as somebody said in one of the lottery comments, cocaine and hookers apparently is what you do at the end.
Maybe, but I mean, if
Yeah.
you're a dying superhero,
The old
which none
David
of
Carradine.
us are, right?
The David
like,
Carradine effect.
could Old Man Logan go back to his time and fix the country? Or could Old Man Logan go back to his time and be like, fuck it, man, it's been a hard, long, like 500, 400-year life, and I just want to kick back in my recliner and watch football and drink some beers. Like,
Well, if Thor is any inclusion, he's going to live for a few thousand more years and eventually gain the Phoenix Force and then fight All-Father Thor and then fall in battle versus fully magically empowered Doctor Doom and pass on the Phoenix Force to Thor.
I kind of look at all of Jason Aaron's stuff as like a what if. Like, this guy just does whatever he wants, and that's cool. And I got no hate for that. But like, do you? I'm gonna go over here and do me.
Well, now he's got the best Avengers series in like 10 years. So, you know, take what you want from it, but it's a good chance that if anything's going to end up canon, this is, and maybe Old Man Logan isn't.
Probably not. No, I totally buy that. I totally believe that Old Man Logan will have something change in the timeline, just like Dark Knight Returns, right? I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's going to really argue with me with any legitimate argument that Dark Knight Returns is one of the great comic stories of all time. I see JJ is trying to unmute himself and he's failing, which is awesome.
I was trying to get my camera to focus.
But like, everything that happened in Dark Knight Returns really feasibly can't happen once you bring Jason Todd back to life. So that's fine. Like, if you want to invalidate Old Man Logan, it's easy enough to do. But it's been a really great series. It's been fun, mostly beautiful. I don't really love Roberson's art in this last arc, but I don't think he's the artist on Dead Man Logan. So if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend Old Man Logan. This is volume 2, started in 2016. It ran for 50 issues, and I can't say that there was a single issue in those 50 that I did not enjoy. His run-ins with Bullseye were absolutely classic storytelling.
I'm absolutely going to check them out based on your recommendation, by the way.
They were really fun. Like, I didn't want to like it. I really didn't. I don't love messing with the timeline and transplanting characters and all this other business. We were talking about that earlier with Secret Wars. I don't
Shockingly,
love
I loved his crossover with Deadpool last year.
Nice. So that's enough. That's enough for me. I feel like I've been talking forever. JJ, you read Batman Secret Files #1, which was a one-shot that came out on October 31st. And it was
Correct.
what, five stories?
It was 5 stories.
Hold on. Time out. You didn't even get to let me say anything about Old Man Logan.
Oh, please.
Sorry.
Please. I thought I was the only one reading Old Man Logan.
Well, you are. So all I wanted to say is I can't wait to read it in trade. And yeah, it sounds really exciting. I love how Cody hypes it up. And JJ, what do you got for us?
Well worth the wait, gotta say. Okay, so for this week's show, I went ahead and reviewed Batman Secret Files #1 because I reviewed all the good books this week on my indie show. Do check it out. So, as with all anthology books, as with the last anthology book that I reviewed, I'm going to go ahead and break things down by story. So the first story that was in this book was True Strength by Tom King and Mikhail Shannon, who are one of the current Batman teams. It involves Superman offering Batman a form of kryptonite that will give him Kryptonian powers, and Batman refusing it and then failing to hold a teacup. This is akin to that time you tell your girlfriend about the time that a woman asked you out who was really attractive, and that you shot him down for that girlfriend. In that nothing happened, and you just made it up probably, and nothing happened. Nothing happens in this story, and nobody cares about it. Moving on. The Nature of Fear by Ram V and Jorge Fornes was actually a pretty excellent breakdown of how Scarecrow's fear toxin affects an average human being, and had a decent twist at the end. And this is one of the stories that I do recommend. The art was a little bit sketchy and may not be for everybody, but to me it was a little bit reminiscent of a more sketchy version of something like Michael Lark in Gotham Central, which I don't hate and in fact happen to love. Next story would be One by Cheryl Lynn Eaton and Elena Kazengard, and involved a drone made by Wayne Enterprises being utilized by a local Gotham gang in drive-by hits. Which, this is the first drone story I've seen about drive-by hits, so it's neat for that. But it felt a little bit derivative of the plot line in The Dark Knight, where cell phones are able to be utilized by Wayne Enterprises in order to view the city. And likewise, Wayne was able to access all of the drones via a voice command enabled by Wayne Enterprises to deactivate them all, which made the entire story, again, null and void and not happen. Who cares? We seem to have a little bit of a theme here. Next story was Enough by Jordi Belair, who, if you know your comics and pay attention to your comics like I do, Jordi Belair is a colorist, a female colorist, and a phenomenal colorist. And I did think it was neat that she got a story in here with Jill Thompson on art. The story wasn't terrible. It involved Batman going up to a mountain for a little bit of alone time and saying repeatedly, "I don't like myself," and eventually firing a bow and arrow with enough poison on it to kill a human into the darkness blindly, which is not ideal. And then discovering he had killed a deer and then kicking snow over it and walking off, and that's the end of the story. It wasn't a bad story. It did feel a little bit like a pitch that had been rejected that eventually made its way into a one-shot. And but I love the fact that a colorist is getting some recognition, and I'm happy to see some talent being utilized that might in new ways. So I'm all for giving Jordi Belair props on this issue and getting in this issue and this story. It did feature a little bit of a snow bat suit, which was kind of neat, on art from Jill Thompson again.
I like Jill Thompson a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of her Vertigo work really spoke to me. So
yeah, and it wasn't the worst story in the issue. That you know has the distinction of being the person who's currently writing the flagship Batman book. The best, my favorite story in the entire issue was the last one, as these often do. They did once outline in the Treehouse of Horror that the first issue and the first story and the last story are always the strongest, and the middle issues are the weak ones. This one, the first and third issues of the week, or stories of the weakest. Second and fourth are decent, and the fifth is strongest. So the fifth issue would be World's Greatest Detective and Batman by Tom Taylor and Brad Walker, which was a Detective Chimp story that also starred Batman and involved Detective Chimp figuring out all of the clues before Batman did in a low-tier Riddler story that involved Detective Chimp doing a favor for the person who saved him in his, of all things, Dark Knight's metal retconned origin. So apparently that is now Detective Chimp's canon origin, which is neat. Previously, he had been implanted by aliens, but now he was saved by a person who he now feels indebted to.
I love that. I love his
It's not the
changed
worst.
origin.
Yeah, but so he felt indebted to that man's son, the man who saved him in his changed origin, and give it to Tom Taylor to actually tie something successfully into metal. None of the New Age of Heroes series have managed it so far. But this is hands down the best story in the issue. Looking at the list of issues in front of me, I'd say 2 out of 5 of these issues are worth your time. So if you find it for $2 or less, buy it. If you find it for $5, which is $1 a story, I would go ahead and pass on it. And Brian suggested maybe I just pick a issue to complain about every week because I never have an issue to say anything good about, and so this is my issue to complain about this week. Thanks for listening.
What's funny is these anthologies, these especially one-shot anthologies, don't really sell all that well, so I'm really surprised to see them keep pushing them. Although the inclusion of Tom Taylor, who I'm sure you guys have heard me rave about, both of you have heard me rave about how much I love Tom Taylor's work on X-Men Red. That makes it probably worth it for me to pick this up just to get a little bit more Tom Taylor Batman.
He's doing the Batman Annual this year, Batman Annual number 3, which should be first week of December. That's what the last 2 annuals have been.
I will double check that, but I believe that is correct.
I'm just going by years of knowing, reading Batman.
Yeah, no, I read it too. I thought it was pretty decent. My favorite is Detective Chimp. Like, he's awesome. Like, let's just get that out there and be like, he is pretty amazing. I will read anything that he is in. I don't care what happens. He is an alcoholic chimp that's also a detective. Like, where can you go wrong with that? Like, you can't. Trust me, you really can't. Like, if Detective Chimp wasn't in Justice League Dark, I probably wouldn't care about Justice League Dark, but he's fucking awesome, so who cares?
I did love the inclusion of, you have a crime lab in your car? And he said, you don't? And he said, I just have a magnifying glass and a hat.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you guys in our group, one of our group chats.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. I love that dude. Like, you can do no wrong. I don't care what he does. As long as he's in a book, I am buying it.
Bobo for life. Batman Annual number 3 does come out December 12th. So if you like Tom Taylor and you like Batman, that's the book for you. December 12th.
Sweet.
So
I think that's all I got to say about Batman Secret Files, by the way.
Excellent. So why don't we move on to Future Watch? This is a moderately big week for comics. So, and comics and the comics industry really as a whole. What are you guys excited about?
Spider-Geddon, since Cody totally skipped over me. It's cool, bro. It's cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you didn't have a review.
No. Before the show started, I was going to be like, I'm going to talk about Spider-Geddon. So,
oh, yeah, right. Tell us about Spider-Geddon.
Yeah.
Because I have no frame of reference at all.
No,
Yeah, I have no idea what that book's even about.
yeah. So no, last night I spent like 2 hours catching up. So we're not necessarily assigned books at Comic Watch, but sometimes there's an open book and it's thrown out there. Hey, who wants to review? I was like, I'll review it. I'm not really a big fan of Spider-Man, so why not? Uh, so I was like, yeah, why not? And so I spent the last probably like 2 hours catching up on it. I had no idea that there were so many tie-ins. If I knew there were so many tie-ins, I'm not positive that I would have reviewed it. I thought there was 4 issues. Apparently there's 10 or 11 just to catch up to Spider-Geddon number 2, right? Is that where we're at? No, 3.
Number 3.
So I don't know why I chose Spider-Man because I have no history, no knowledge of Spider-Man, with the exception of like a few Saturday morning cartoons before X-Men came on. So honestly, I'm probably the last person ever to review Spider-Man. But okay, so here's the tea on Spider-Man, Armageddon or Spider-Geddon. It's an awesome book. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm not so familiar with him. I don't know if it's just that I have no knowledge, that I find it really well written. There's Spider-Punk, there's Spider-Ham, which, dude, there's a Spider-Ham. He's a pig.
Peter Porker.
It's so wrong on so many levels, but I'm like, I hope that dude lives. And I say that because a lot of people have died, or a lot of Spider-Men have died in the multi-universe. I'm not exactly sure where this is going. A bunch of people are coming to... what I have trouble with is just determine which Peter Parker is the actual Peter Parker. But other than that, I'm super excited to read this storyline because it shows a lot of promise. Like, I can tell when I get bored by a series because I'll be like, how many pages do I have left? But this one I didn't. Like, I read 10 comics last night just based on the Spider-Geddon, and it's pretty awesome. Like, I would recommend it. I have a review for Spider-Geddon number 3. Check it out. This is the big 2018's big Spider-Man story. Check it out. Tell me what you guys think of it. I'm super interested. And if you're a super fan of Spider-Man, let me know what you think about it, because I don't have a lot of recollection of Spider-Man. So let me know. All right? That's all I have. Sorry, Cody. I cut you off.
No, it's okay. And I assume, like, I'm not reading it and I'm not following it. I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, but I assume that the Miles Morales Spider-Man and the Superior Spider-Man are going to be spinning out of this.
Yeah, so Superior Spider-Man is kind of created the whole drama that's happening right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably read it in trade. I don't know. I actually am kind of interested, but I'm a little too behind to catch up in singles right now because it hit so hard and so fast, which is a thing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it started right after Spider-Man 2000 or 800. I'm sorry, Amazing Spider-Man 800. And that's when that kicked in. Yeah, I mean, I think if you read it, JJ, because you follow Spider-Man, I think you'd super enjoy it. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of death.
Well, Superior Spider-Man comes out December 26th, and Miles Morales Spider-Man comes out December 12th. So both of those books are incoming shortly after the end of Spider-Geddon. And I think both
the first
those books
issue
will
of
be hot.
Superior already happened.
No, it was a previous series. This is a new series.
I believe number 1 came out already. It's part of the... I don't know if it's number 2 or they're just going to reboot it. Marvel is famous for rebooting, so who knows?
Well, I definitely have a number 1 coming out day after Christmas. For sure.
Huh. So maybe it was a one-shot. It was like...
Could have been a one-shot, yeah.
It was probably a month ago. 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah. I think there was a one-shot.
It's pretty expensive if you're trying to catch up now. Like, I had to buy... I think there's 13 total before tomorrow's issue releases. But in trade, it's going to read amazing because I had to read all of them last night. For some reason, I was thinking I had to read it before tonight. or before today, which was really stupid because I don't have to read it before until Friday. But I wanted to talk about it because I'm really interested. I know when I'm interested in a book, not just because I don't look what page I'm in, but I also like think about it when I'm not having to. And this is one of the things I think I was randomly working on sending a bitchy email out, and I was like, I wonder what's going to happen with such and such character. I don't want to give any spoilers. And I was like, I wonder if they're going to bring him back. So that's how I know when I think about it on my off time away from Comic Watch that it's a good series. And so far, I really enjoy it. And again, I do want to stress the fact that I don't know if it's because I'm brand new to Spider-Man. I mean, I know Spider-Man. I've seen all the movies and I've read a couple of titles here and there. But I'm super interested in the book. I think it's pretty awesome so far. That's all I got.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful. No, we appreciate that. And I appreciate, as the new personnel director, you picking that title up for me. So, much appreciated. Future Watch.
Go ahead. Yeah. Right.
Future Watch. Like, we got to tie this show up eventually. What's coming out next week? That's the 7th of November. That has you excited.
Green Lantern.
JJ. Green Lantern. Grant Morrison, Lian Sharp, Green Lantern is got to be the book of the week.
Oh, it's gonna be our spotlight. I can already guarantee it. It's probably, I mean, I can't guarantee it's gonna be my book of the week. Grant Morrison can be hit and miss. I gotta say, his last few books he's written, I've been stoked on. He wrote a fucking book about Santa Claus last year that I was stoked on.
So dope. Klaus
It
from
goddamn.
was that was,
It was Image, right?
Or it was either Image or Aftershock. It was one of the two, but yeah.
I wrote him a 22-verse Christmas poem trying to get him to retweet me, and he did not.
Brutal.
So I am so excited to be reviewing this series because I'm going to take it to some new and exciting heights.
Excellent. What about you, B?
Bluebird #2 from Image. That book is weird. I say that in a good way. I can't wait to see what's coming out. There's actually, I think Death Orb #2 is coming out. I was actually supposed to review it for #1, but my comic shop ended up not having it and was delayed, so I wasn't able to. So I'm going to try to, because I think it's a mini, I'm going to try to just sum it up or review it as a series versus an individual book. It's a fun book. It's gritty. It's different from anything that I've seen. But Bluebird #2 is what my eyes attracted to first. It's a weird series. It's magical. Not my typical type of book, so I can't wait to see where this goes. I wonder if she saves her sister, if the sister ends up dead, if she overdoses. What the hell's going on, man? What's going on?
Dead Rabbit #2 comes out this week also, Brian. I know you were reading that.
Yeah, that's a cool book. Are you reviewing it, JJ?
I'm reviewing it on my indie show. Also, this week is Crowded #4, which I'm also reviewing on my indie show, which is by Christopher Sabella.
Nice.
Wait, maybe we should review. We'll talk after the show because I really want this book to be reviewed. Dead Rabbit's awesome. Like, I really enjoy. What is it? I really enjoy indies. Although, do we really consider Image indie at this point? Maybe.
I think so, only because it's creator-owned properties.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with calling them indie.
Yeah. So I mean, I know that we're. Yeah. I really hope this book gets the recognition that it deserves. I mean, anybody that talks about hemorrhoids during a comic book, like, that fucking deserves a review from us. Okay, I'm sorry. I digress.
No, fair enough. In addition...
That's during my hemorrhoid show. You know, it's my 4th show.
Yeah.
So in addition to those books, which all sound really great, we've also got the Typhoid Fever X-Men one-shot coming out this week. We have the finale of the Cloak and Dagger digital series coming out this week.
Wave of the future.
There's also a new Batman. Whatever. Marvel Knights starts their 20th anniversary celebration this week with Marvel Knights 20th #1. I'm personally really excited for that. I remember being on the ground floor when Marvel Knights first launched and being very, very excited about it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do for their 20th and how that all plays out. It's a 6-issue. I believe it's a bi-month or bi-weekly series. There's a new Deathstroke out. I can't wait to see if Deathstroke actually was abducted by aliens in the last issue or not. And that's kind of the bulk. Oh, the penultimate issue of X-Men Red comes out this week, number 10. And that should be really interesting to see. Finally, like the war starts. I do feel like X-Men Red kind of got rushed to the end, but I love that series so much that it doesn't even matter. Like, rush it, take it slow. Do me how you gonna do me. It's a great book. Really solid. And I think that's about it for our episode.
Yeah, no, I do want to thank you for joining us for episode 8. I don't know how we haven't been canceled yet. Maybe episode 8 will be our final.
They can't cancel us. We work for free.
We don't. Actually, we kind of do.
We can't be fired. I don't like to throw around the term unfireable.
Okay, so thank you for joining us for another episode. I can't believe we made it to episode 8.
2 months!
2 months, yes. JJ's totally throwing me off with his banter of how long we've actually been able to survive. So no, I do want to thank you for joining us. I hope you guys continue to join us. I hope you join in on the first part. Let us know what you're all about. Let us know your favorite comic characters, all that stuff. Please subscribe to us. Check us out on the Facebook page, The Comic Watchers. Check us out on YouTube, of course, for Comic Watch. Does anybody have anything else in closing?
No.
Okay. So I do want to close this show and say thank you, and can't wait to see you guys next week. Maybe we'll be sober, but let's be honest, we're a bunch of rejects and we won't be.